Hello, you're listening to the Drawing the Ideal Self podcast for December 2024. From now on, the episodes will be just listed by number rather than by month, because I think the month's a bit irrelevant, and that came to me when I had to take some time off because of my knee surgery, and it seems a bit silly to list them by month. So from now on, we'll talk about the episode numbers. So this is episode 47 actually. So in today's episode, I'm going to explain to you about a new document that you can find from my website. I've been thinking a lot about how I could help people to find information in the podcast. And sometimes people will ask me if I've done anything on a particular topic, and then I have to search the episodes, find the right link and send it to them. And I thought there's probably a better way to do this. So what I've done is make a booklet that can go with all the podcast episodes so far. So it lists the episodes 1 to 46 in terms of what they're used for. You may have noticed on YouTube some of the numbering has changed, and also on Spotify and Apple, etc. And that's because I had to remove some episodes. I will be looking at how I can get those same topics back on in a different format, but at the moment I've just got these 46 episodes. So what I've done is go through them and decide on what sort of topic they're on. And I thought one of the key understandings is what a construct is. And it turned out actually I've got quite a lot of episodes on that. And then there are some that within that are about the personal construing of self, and some that are about constructs, say core constructs. Then there's a section really that's about change, and then thinking about Kelly's formulation, which he called transitive diagnosis. And there are some particular episodes that would be useful if you're trying to understand that. And then there's a section about thinking about different experiences, and they are extremely varied. So the ones that are about experiences come largely from all kinds of ideas that I've had, and quite often they've been inspired by listening to something on the radio or a podcast or watching a TV programme or a film, and thinking about how that applies in everyday life, or how I could look at that same thing through a PCP lens. And then some of the episodes have been interviews with people who've kindly given their time. They don't get paid because I don't have any money for this, so they've given their time free to encourage people to see that there are sort of career paths that you can use PCP within. And the nice thing is that I've managed to get a variety of people, so those interviews can be grouped together. And then there are lots about techniques, and then a final one on where you can find further training. So the booklet is called a podcast navigator, but it allows you to find all the episodes and follow your own path of learning. So if you wanted to focus on understanding what a construct is, you can start with those and listen to all those. All of the episodes are hyperlinked, and it will take you to YouTube. So all of the podcast episodes are on there. That was the easiest thing to do, because otherwise I'd have to have a link for every podcast streamer. So I've gone for one, and YouTube seems to be one that's very accessible to most people in most countries. The hyperlink will take you to YouTube. So what you can do is follow your own path of study. So you could listen to all of the episodes that are about constructs, or all of the episodes that are about change in succession, if you want to do it that way. Or you can just take any random one. I mean, the most random is the way they are actually in terms of the broadcast of the podcast. So those things didn't go in any particular order. I wasn't trying to do anything in particular. I was just trying to have a mix of things. So that's where you can find a sort of random presentation of the podcast topics. But sometimes people want a bit more structure than that. And they might be struggling in their learning about PCB with a particular aspect of the theory, or they're thinking about, well, how does this apply to real life then? What can I understand about that? So both of those things are accommodated in this little book of navigation. What I'm hoping is that this kind of makes the podcast more accessible and useful as a reference tool, so you can go back and find particular things. The other thing is that I'm hoping it will complement the people who are doing the foundation course they're learning, which is based on our foundation course handbook. I've put the link in case you want to buy that. Or if people are doing PCP on their training courses, sometimes educational psychology courses cover quite a lot of PCP, sometimes clinical courses, sometimes counselling courses. So if you've got PCP in your course about something, then these podcasts can help you to understand some of the things a bit more deeply. I've also put a link into the PCP pocketbook, because if you're thinking of using PCP for investigation, where you're doing a piece of research, you can find in the PCP pocketbook every technique that we know at the moment, and it will tell you what it is, what it does, and where you can find it. Then there are links to the beginner's guides in PCP, which is children and young people, which I wrote, and adults and couples, which Peter Cummins and Diane Allen wrote. And as you will know, if you've bought any of our books, we try and make them as cheap as they can be in order for people to get them easily. I mean, I think that helps people to take a risk with PCP. If you've got to buy a £60 book, you need to be really sure it's going to be what you're interested in. If you're going to pay £7, you can take a risk with it. So our books are available, so I've put links into those. And I've also I've made a visual guide to PCP called Personal Construct Psychology in Pictures. That's available on my website as a free download. And I think on Amazon I couldn't get it to drop to free, but I'd recommend you get it through my website. It'll take you to a link which takes you to BookFunnel, and you just get it through BookFunnel. So you need some way of delivering it, if you like. BookFunnel is like the postman. Okay, that's all I'm going to say for this. And we'll be in a new phase for the podcast in this new year. And I will try, having sorted all these out, it's drawn my attention to some gaps, and I will try to fill some of those gaps in the episodes over the coming year. And I'll think about how I can develop the podcast a bit more. So if you've got any ideas, feel free to contact me. A couple of people have. You can always suggest something. I may not always be able to come up with the goods. If I can, I will. Okay, so I hope you have a very good new year, and that 2025 is a good one for you. What I would like to say is, if you're thinking of making any changes, why don't you listen to podcast episode 7, called Do I Really Want to Change? Exploring Personal Barriers. It talks about why we might change, but also why we might not. And at this time of year, loads of people are trying changes, and they might do slot rattling. And there's an episode on that, which is episode 24, called Slot Rattling Changes That May Not Stick. Because sometimes people just go to the contrast pole. So let's say if you were not exercising, you go to exercising 5 days a week, and then you find you can't keep that up because it's not practical. So both of those might be helpful if you're thinking of making any changes in the new year. All right, I'll see you again at the end of January. Thank you very much. Bye.